The emergency alarm echoed through the halls of the Galactic Confederation building on Prime. Ambassador ran down the corridor, her shoes clicking against the smooth metal floor. She had been called to an urgent meeting, and she knew it was bad news. The Great Council chamber was already full when she arrived. Beings from across the galaxy sat in their special seats. The crystalline sparkled like living diamonds. The gas-like floated in their containment suits. The ancient Keeper Collective hummed with shared thoughts, and there, in the smallest section, sat the humans. Took her place as Earth's representative. She looked at the massive screen that dominated the front wall. What she saw made her stomach turn. Ships shaped like giant insects moved through space. Below them, a planet burned. Cities turned to ash. Forests became wastelands, and the beings who lived there ran in terror, but there was nowhere to hide. "The Empire has begun a new campaign," spoke Elder Zin Moore. His crystal body flashed with different colors as he talked. "They are destroying primitive species across the outer rim systems. 17 worlds have already fallen." Watch the images change. Each one showed the same horror: ships arriving, weapons firing from orbit, life ending. She saw beings who looked almost human, others who were like giant insects. Some were plant-like creatures who had just learned to build simple homes. "These species cannot defend themselves," said, standing up. "They don't even have space travel. This is not war, this is murder." "The word you seek is genocide," said Prime Keeper Atlas. The ancient machine's voice was cold and emotionless. "The systematic destruction of entire species." "Then we must stop them," replied. "Earth is ready to send ships immediately. Our fleet can reach the nearest threatened system in 6 days." The chamber fell silent, looked around at the faces and forms of the galaxy's most powerful species. She expected to see anger. She expected to see determination. Instead, she saw something she had never seen before in this chamber. Fear. Elder Zin Moore's crystal body dimmed. "The human speaks without understanding. The Empire is ancient and powerful. They have weapons that can crack planets. Their bioships heal themselves. Their technology is beyond what most species possess." "So we do nothing?" asked. "We let them kill innocent beings who cannot fight back." Commander Val spoke from within his gas suit. "We invoke the Prime Directive of non-interference. It has kept peace in the galaxy for 3,000 years." Felt her heart sink. The Prime Directive was the Confederation's oldest law. It said that advanced species should not interfere with the natural development of primitive ones. It also said that conflicts between species should be resolved through diplomacy, not war. "This is not natural development," argued. "This is extinction. The Prime Directive was made to protect primitive species, not to abandon them to killers." "The directive protects the greater good," said Elder Zin Moore. "Military action would destabilize the entire galaxy. Wars would follow. More species would die than we could save." "The humans do not understand galactic politics," added Prime Keeper Atlas. "You have been part of the Confederation for only 50 years. You are still a juvenile species. You lack the wisdom to see the larger picture." Felt anger burning in her chest. "Wisdom? You call watching murder wisdom? These beings are dying right now while we sit here and debate." The screen changed to show another world. This one was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. Cities sparkled like jewels across the surface. Could see ships moving between the planet and its moons. This species had just reached space. "The civilization," explained Commander Val. "They discovered nuclear energy 50 years ago. They built their first space station last year. Intelligence reports say the fleet will reach their system in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, whispered. "We could save them. Our ships are faster than biovessels. We could get there first." "The vote has already been decided," said Elder Zin Moore. "The Confederation will respond with diplomatic pressure and economic sanctions. We will send strongly worded messages to the Empire. We will threaten to cut off trade. And while you're writing your strongly worded messages, the will die, said. That is unfortunate, said Prime Keeper Atlas. But the alternative is galactic war. The cost would be too high. Looked around the chamber one more time. The beings who ruled the galaxy sat in comfort while genocide happened in the dark corners of space. They had the power to stop it, but they chose not to act. The human delegation is forbidden from taking any military action, said Elder Zinmore. Any violation of this directive will result in Earth's immediate expulsion from the Confederation. Your species will be cut off from galactic trade and technology. Your colonies will be abandoned. Your people will be alone. Nodded slowly, I understand. Good, then this emergency session is closed. We will monitor the situation and continue diplomatic efforts. The great beings began to leave. Watched them go, feeling sick and angry. She thought about the children she had seen on the screen. They were playing in parks and going to schools. They had dreams and hopes for the future. In 2 weeks they would all be dead. Walked back to the human section of the Confederation building. Her staff was waiting for her. They looked at her face and knew the answer before she spoke. They said no, said Deputy Ambassador Park. Worse, replied. They've forbidden us from acting. If we help, they'll throw Earth out of the Confederation. So what do we do? Asked Communications Officer Singh. Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, innocent beings were dying. Somewhere else, killers were preparing to murder an entire species that had just reached for the stars. We go home, said quietly, and we tell our government what happened here today. As the human delegation prepared to leave, made a private recording on her secure communicator. Personal log, Ambassador. The Confederation has chosen politics over life. They value stability more than justice. They are willing to watch genocide happen rather than risk their comfortable position. She paused and looked out at the stars again. I pray that Earth makes a better choice. The elevator descended deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Ambassador watched the numbers count down as they went deeper underground. Level 50, level 75, level 100. Finally, it stopped at level 127 in the deepest bunkers of the Earth Defense Council. President was already waiting when entered the secure conference room. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth. General, head of the Space Defense Forces, Secretary Park from the Department of Alien Relations, Admiral Cross from the Deep Space Fleet, Director from Earth Intelligence, and others whose names were classified above security level. Report, President said simply. Activated her personal recorder. The holographic display showed the Confederation chamber and the beings who ruled the galaxy. The Confederation has invoked the Prime Directive. They have forbidden any military intervention against the Empire, economic sanctions and diplomatic pressure only. And the threatened species, asked General. Will die, replied. The Confederation knows this. They accept it as the price of galactic stability. Secretary Park leaned forward. They specifically mentioned consequences if we act. Immediate expulsion from the Confederation, complete economic blockade. Our colonies would be cut off from galactic trade routes. Earth would be alone. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Earth had colonies on 12 worlds now. Millions of humans lived on planets that depended on trade with alien species for survival. Some worlds needed special medicine that only the could make. Others required technology that only the could provide. Show them the latest intelligence, President said to Director. The holographic display changed. Now it showed star charts marked with red zones. 17 species have been completely eliminated in the past 6 months, explained. They are moving in a pattern. They target primitive species that cannot defend themselves. Total extinction is their goal. The display zoomed in on one system. This is 442. The population, 2.3 billion. Technology level, early space age. They just launched their first interplanetary mission last month. Felt her stomach twist as she watched recordings of the. They looked almost human, but with longer limbs and larger eyes. Children played in parks that looked like they could be on Earth. Scientists worked in laboratories, trying to understand the universe. Artists created beautiful music and paintings. Intelligence estimates the fleet will arrive in 13 days, continued. Complete sterilization will take approximately 6 hours. Admiral Cross spoke for the first time. Our fastest ships could reach the system in 8 days if we left immediately. The question is not whether we can, said Secretary Park. The question is whether we should. If we violate the Prime Directive, Earth faces isolation. Millions of our own people could die without alien medical technology and trade goods. General stood up. His face was red with anger. So we let genocide happen to save ourselves. That's not the human way. It's the smart way, Park replied. We have responsibilities to our own species first. Do we? Asked quietly. When I was at the Confederation, I watched the most powerful beings in the galaxy choose to do nothing while innocent people die. Is that who we want to be? President activated another display. It showed Earth's military strength compared to known alien forces. The numbers were not encouraging. Even if we wanted to act, what could we accomplish? The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. Their bioships are said to be nearly indestructible. Admiral Cross smiled grimly. Said by whom? The same aliens who think we're a juvenile species. The same beings who use energy weapons exclusively and have never faced kinetic bombardment. Explain, President ordered. Cross stood and activated her own display. It showed schematics of new human warships that the aliens had never seen. For 50 years, we've been building ships based on alien technology, but we've also been building ships based on human innovation. The aliens shared their defensive technologies with us, but they never asked about our offensive capabilities. The display showed a cutaway view of a human destroyer. Our new kinetic weapons accelerate tungsten rods to 15% of light speed. We tested them in the asteroid belt last month. A single shot can crack a mountain. The aliens use energy weapons, Director added. Their shields are designed to deflect lasers, plasma beams, and particle streams. But kinetic weapons, solid matter moving at incredible speed, their shields aren't built for that. Secretary Park shook her head. You're talking about starting a war with beings who can destroy planets. They're already at war, General replied. They're at war with every primitive species in the galaxy. We would just be evening the odds. President looked around the table. Let me be clear about what we're discussing. If we act, Earth will be thrown out of the Confederation. We will lose access to alien technology and trade. Our colonies may starve. Our people may die. If we don't act, said, we become complicit in genocide. How many species will die while we sit safely in our comfortable alliance with beings who choose politics over justice? The president activated a new display. This one showed real-time footage from occupied worlds, cities in ruins, empty planets where billions had once lived, the remains of civilizations that had reached for the stars and been destroyed for daring to dream. The Confederation says these beings would have died anyway, President said. Natural evolution, survival of the fittest, the strong consuming the weak. The Confederation is wrong, Admiral Cross said firmly. These species didn't die naturally. They were murdered. There's a difference. Director activated another display. Our psychological profiles of the elder alien species show they are risk-averse to an extreme degree. They value stability above all else. They genuinely believe that maintaining the current system is more important than saving individual species. And they may be right, Secretary Park insisted. If we destabilize the galactic order, wars could break out everywhere. The death toll could be far worse than what they are doing. Could be, General replied. "But we know for certain that innocent beings are dying right now. We know for certain that more will die if we do nothing." President was quiet for a long moment. She stared at the displays showing the doomed world, children playing, scientists working, artists creating, all of them unaware that death was coming from the stars. "If we do this," she said finally, "it has to be completely secret. The official record will show that our fleet was conducting training exercises in deep space. No communication with the Confederation. No requests for permission or support." Admiral Cross nodded. "Task Force Prometheus has been prepared for deep space operations. Officially, they're testing new navigation systems in unexplored regions." "How many ships?" President asked. 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers, and 2 carriers, plus support vessels. Everything we can spare without leaving Earth defenseless. "And if the mission fails, if our ships are destroyed, then Earth will grieve the loss of brave explorers who died in a training accident," Cross replied. President looked around the table one more time. "I need a vote, all in favor of authorizing Operation Prometheus." One by one, hands were raised. General first, Admiral Cross second, Director third, even raised her hand though she was not officially part of the council. Secretary Park was the last to decide. She looked at the images of the children and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her hand was up. "Unanimous," President said. "Admiral Cross, you have authorization to proceed. But understand this, if the Confederation discovers what we're doing, you're on your own. Earth will deny all knowledge of your mission." "Understood, Madam President." "How long until your fleet can depart?" Admiral Cross smiled. "Task Force Prometheus launched 6 hours ago. They're already on their way." President stared at her. "You launched before getting authorization." "I launched a training exercise," Cross replied innocently. "It just happens that the training area is very close to the 442 system." For the first time since the meeting began, President smiled. "Dismissed, everyone, and remember this conversation never happened." As the officials left the bunker, remained behind, she looked at the display showing the world one more time. Somewhere out there, human ships were racing through space to save beings they had never met. Earth had made its choice. Admiral Sarah Cross stood on the bridge of the S. Wellington as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the 442 system. The stars shifted and stabilized, revealing in the distance. It should have been a beautiful blue and green marble hanging in space. Instead, it was already burning. "Tactical report," Cross ordered. Lieutenant Commander Torres looked up from his console, his face grim. 12 bioships in orbit around the planet. They're conducting orbital bombardment. Energy weapons are targeting population centers. The main screen zoomed in to show the alien vessels. They looked like giant insects made of dark metal and living tissue. Their surfaces pulsed with veins of green light. Weapons fired from beneath their hulls in continuous streams, turning cities into glass and ash. "How long have they been at it?" Cross asked. "Approximately 4 hours," Torres replied. "We estimate 400 million casualties so far." Cross felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "Any forces responding?" "Negative. Their space fleet consists of 3 research vessels and 2 cargo haulers. All were destroyed in the first 30 minutes. On the screen, Cross could see the planet's surface. Fires burned across entire continents. The oceans were turning dark with ash and debris, and still the ships continued their systematic destruction. "Signal the fleet," Cross ordered. "All ships to battle stations. Prepare for kinetic bombardment." "Admiral," said Commander Park from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the fleet commander." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared was nightmarish. The commander looked like a cross between an insect and a machine. Its exoskeleton was polished black metal, Multiple eyes glowed with red light. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of grinding gears. Unknown vessels, this is Hive Commander Vex of the Imperial Fleet. You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourselves and withdraw immediately, or you will be destroyed. Cross stepped forward. This is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Terran Defense Force. You are committing genocide against a peaceful species. Cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw from this system. Thus multiple eyes focused on her image. Then it began to make a sound that might have been laughter. Humans, the juvenile species forbidden to act by their own confederation. You amuse me, primitive. This system now belongs to the Empire. The inferior species below will be cleansed to make room for superior life. Last warning, Cross said. Cease fire and withdraw. Or what? Vex asked mockingly. You will file a diplomatic protest. Your own leaders have forbidden you from military action. You are here illegally, in violation of galactic law. Even if you possess the capability to threaten us, which you do not, you would not dare to act. Cross smiled coldly. You're about to learn something about humans, Vex. We don't ask permission to do the right thing. She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. Target their flagship, full kinetic barrage. Firing, Lieutenant Hayes announced. The S. Wellington shuddered as its main guns fired. Tungsten rods, each weighing 10 tons and accelerated to 15% of light speed, streaked across space in lines of brilliant light. The other human ships opened fire at the same moment. The flagship's bioadaptive shields flared to life, designed to deflect energy weapons. But the shields had never encountered solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The tungsten rods punched through the energy barriers like they weren't there. The first impact shattered the bioship's forward section. The second rod tore through its central hull. The third and fourth shots destroyed its weapons arrays. Within 30 seconds, the mighty flagship was drifting powerless, its living hull bleeding green fluids into space. Direct hits on the flagship, Torres reported, his voice filled with amazement. It's completely disabled. The other vessels immediately turned their weapons away from the planet and toward the human fleet. Green energy beams lanced through space, striking the human ship's shields. But Cross had expected this. All ships evasive maneuvers, execute pattern Delta 7. The human fleet scattered in a three-dimensional formation that no alien commander had ever seen before. Instead of the traditional line-of-battle formations used by galactic powers, the humans moved like a pack of wolves. Each ship operated independently while coordinating with the others. The weapons, designed for fighting enemies that moved in predictable patterns, could not track the wildly maneuvering human vessels. Their shots missed by wide margins, while human kinetic weapons found their targets with deadly accuracy. Second vessel disabled, Torres announced, third taking heavy damage. But Cross was not just here to fight. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, begin recording and transmission. I want every shot, every tactical move, and every weapon's signature broadcast across the galactic communication network. The galaxy needs to see this. Admiral, Commander Park said, you want to broadcast our military capabilities to every species in the galaxy. That's exactly what I want, Cross replied. For too long, the elder species have dismissed us as primitives. They need to understand what humans are capable of when we're fighting for justice. The battle continued for 2 hours. The bioships, despite their advanced technology and thousand-year-old designs, were systematically destroyed or disabled. Their energy weapons could not penetrate human shields at long range, and their bioadaptive armor was useless against kinetic bombardment. More importantly, the commanders could not adapt to human tactics. They had fought the same way using the same formations and strategies that had served them well against other elder species. But humans fought differently. Human ships worked together in ways the aliens had never seen. They shared targeting data instantly. They coordinated attacks across multiple vessels. They used the planet's gravity well and debris field as tactical advantages. Most shocking of all, human marines actually boarded disabled enemy ships to rescue captured. Admiral, Torres called out, "We're detecting escape pods launching from the planet's surface." The main screen showed dozens of small craft rising from the burning world below. But they were not vessels. They were human that had somehow reached the surface without being detected. "Marine Commander Stevens reporting," came a voice over the communication system. "We have successfully extracted 50,000 civilians from the primary population center, requesting evacuation support." Cross smiled grimly. While the fleet had engaged the vessels in space, human special forces had infiltrated the planet and begun rescue operations. It was a complex, multi-layered strategy that no alien commander would have conceived. "Copy that, Stevens. Recovery ships are on their way." As the last vessel was destroyed, Cross looked at the tactical display. Her fleet had suffered damage but no losses. The enemy was completely eliminated, and most importantly, millions had been saved. "Communications, open a channel to all galactic frequencies," Cross ordered. When the connection was established, Cross looked directly into the recording device. She knew that her words would be heard in the Confederation chambers, in alien government buildings, and on worlds across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Terran Defense Force. For the past 6 months, the Empire has conducted genocide against primitive species. The Galactic Confederation chose to do nothing but file diplomatic protests. Today, humanity chose differently." She gestured to the tactical display showing the destroyed fleet. "The massacre of the has ended. Their civilization will survive. Any forces continuing genocidal operations in the Outer Rim should know that human forces are now actively hunting you." Cross paused and looked directly into the camera. "To the Galactic Confederation, you forbade us to act. We acted anyway. You may censure us, sanction us, or expel us from your organization. But tonight, 2.3 billion will live to see another day." She cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. "Secure the system and begin rescue operations, and prepare for reinforcements. The other fleets will not ignore what happened here." Commander Park looked worried. "Admiral, we just started a war with a galactic empire, and we did it while violating direct orders from the Confederation." Cross looked out at the stars, where human ships were already beginning the long work of saving as many as possible. "No, Park. We just ended a genocide. The war was already happening. We just chose which side we were on." The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation had been called within hours of Admiral Cross's broadcast. The Great Chamber on Prime buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species demanded answers. Elder Zinmore stood at the center of the chamber, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. "The humans have committed an act of war without authorization. They have violated the most sacred law of the Confederation. They must face immediate consequences." "What consequences?" demanded representative from the Aquatic Collective. "They saved 2.3 billion lives while we sat here debating protocol." "They violated the Prime Directive." Zinmore's crystal body flared bright red. "If every species decides to ignore our laws whenever they disagree with our decisions, the Confederation will collapse into chaos." Prime Keeper Atlas, the ancient machine intelligence, processed data streams from across the galaxy. "The situation is more complex than Elder Zinmore suggests. The human military action has created significant political consequences." The chamber's main display activated, showing a map of the galaxy. Dozens of systems were highlighted in different colors. "In the past 72 hours," Atlas continued, 18 junior member species have formally requested information about joining what humans call the Terran Protectorate. 7 species have demanded emergency votes on withdrawing from the Confederation. Commander Val floated in his containment suit, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. The humans used weapons we did not know they possessed. Their tactical coordination exceeded our projections by 300%. Our intelligence agencies completely failed to assess their true capabilities. The display changed to show recordings from the battle at 4:42. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as human ships destroyed biovessels with apparent ease. Analysis of the battle footage reveals several disturbing facts, Atlas reported. Human kinetic weapons penetrated bioadaptive shields designed to stop all known energy weapons. Human fleet coordination suggests communication and data-sharing capabilities beyond our current understanding. Most significantly, human forces successfully conducted simultaneous space and ground operations. Representative from the Reptilian Alliance hissed softly. For 50 years, we have treated the humans as a primitive species. We shared our defensive technologies with them. We believed we understood their capabilities. We were wrong, admitted Elder Zinmore. His crystal form had shifted from red to a worried blue. The question is, what do we do now? Before anyone could answer, a new voice spoke from the human section of the chamber. Ambassador stood up slowly, her face calm but her eyes hard. You do nothing, she said simply. Just like you did nothing when the committed genocide, just like you do nothing whenever injustice threatens the weak. You dare to lecture us. Zinmore's crystal body flared bright red again. Your species has violated the most fundamental law of galactic civilization. We violated your law to save lives, replied, and we would do it again. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some species demanded Earth's immediate expulsion. Others called for military action against human forces, but an unexpected voice cut through the chaos. The humans were right. Everyone turned to stare at Representative Moan from the collective. The being's antennae twitched nervously, but its voice remained steady. My species was nearly extinct 500 years ago, Moan continued. Pirates destroyed our colonies. Slavers captured our people. We begged the Confederation for help. You offered us diplomatic protests and economic sanctions. The pirates laughed at your strongly worded statements. The chamber fell silent. Moan rarely spoke during Confederation sessions. We survived because we fought back. We built our own defenses. We protected ourselves because no one else would. The humans did what we wished the Confederation had done for us 500 years ago. The Prime Directive exists for good reasons, Commander Val insisted. Military intervention creates instability. It encourages aggressive behavior. It prevents genocide, interrupted Representative. While we debated protocol, 400 million died. How many more would have died if the humans had followed our precious directive? Prime Keeper Atlas displayed new data. The Empire has announced the acceleration of their cleansing operations. Intelligence indicates they are moving additional fleets toward primitive worlds in the Outer Rim. They appear to be attempting to complete their genocide before human forces can intervene again. Elder Zinmore's crystal body flickered between colors as he processed this information. Then, we must negotiate with them. We must convince them to cease their operations through diplomatic means. We've been trying diplomacy for 6 months, said coldly. How has that worked out? How many species are extinct while you negotiate? What would you have us do? Zinmore demanded. Start a galactic war, destroy the peace we have maintained for 3. I would have you choose justice over comfort, replied. I would have you protect the innocent instead of protecting your political positions. The debate continued for hours. Traditional allies found themselves on opposite sides. Species that had never questioned Confederation policy began to demand explanations. The unity that had held the galaxy together for thousands of years was fracturing. Then the reports began coming in. Emergency transmission from the Tau system, announced a communications officer. Human forces have engaged a fleet attempting to sterilize the have been defeated. Additional report from the Wolf 359 system, came another voice. Human Marines have evacuated 15 million refugees from occupied worlds. They are being relocated to protected systems. Intelligence update from the Vega sector, said a third officer. Human ships are actively hunting strike forces. 3 more enemy fleets have been destroyed. Elder Zinmore stared at the incoming reports. How many ships do the humans have? Unknown, Atlas replied. Our intelligence estimates of human military capacity have proven completely inadequate. Commander Val's gaseous form swirled frantically. They cannot be everywhere at once. No single species has that many vessels. But the reports kept coming. Human forces seemed to be operating in a dozen systems simultaneously. Their ships moved faster than should be possible. Their coordination was perfect. And most disturbing of all, they were winning. Representative hissed thoughtfully. Perhaps the question is not how they are doing this. Perhaps the question is why we are not helping them. Because they violated the Prime Directive, Zinmore insisted. Did they? Asked Representative Moan. Or did they follow a higher directive, the directive to protect innocent life? Activated her personal communicator and projected a message that had just arrived from Earth. President appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber. To the Galactic Confederation, the President said, humanity acknowledges that we have violated your Prime Directive. We do not apologize for saving lives. We do not regret our actions. We will continue to protect innocent species from genocide, with or without your approval. The hologram paused, and President looked directly at the alien representatives. However, we extend an offer to any species that wishes to join us in this mission. The Terran Protectorate is open to all who believe that justice matters more than politics. Together, we can end the age of passive observation and begin an age of active protection. The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Finally, Representative Moan stood up. The collective formally requests information about joining the Terran Protectorate. As does the Aquatic Alliance, added Representative. One by one, more species voiced their interest. Not the elder species, who clung to their ancient traditions, but the younger races, who remembered what it felt like to be powerless and afraid. Elder Zinmore watched his ancient authority crumble before his eyes. The confederation that had ruled the galaxy was fracturing, and he was powerless to stop it. The humans had done more than win a battle. They had shattered the illusion that peace and justice were the same thing, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 6 months after the Battle of Ambassador stood before the Galactic Confederation one final time. The Great Chamber looked different now. 17 species had formally withdrawn to join the Terran Protectorate. 23 others had threatened to leave unless major reforms were implemented. The unity of the elder races was broken. The displays around the chamber showed the results of humanity's campaign. The Empire had retreated to their core systems after losing 60% of their fleet to human forces. 47 primitive species that would have been extinct were now thriving under human protection. Refugee settlements housed millions of beings rescued from occupation. Elder Zinmore stood at his podium, his crystal body dim and flickering. Ambassador, you have requested this final address before Earth's formal withdrawal from the Confederation. The Council recognizes you. Looked around the chamber at the faces and forms of the galaxy's most powerful species. Many of the seats were empty now. The representatives who remained looked tired and uncertain. 6 months ago, I stood in this chamber and watched you choose politics over life, began. You had the power to stop genocide, but you chose to maintain your comfortable order instead. You told us we were too young to understand galactic politics. You said military action would destabilize the galaxy. She activated her personal display, showing footage from the liberated worlds. You were right about one thing. Our actions did destabilize your galaxy. The question is, was your galaxy worth preserving? Prime Keeper Atlas, the ancient machine intelligence, processed data continuously. The Terran Protectorate now includes 42 species. Their combined military forces exceed Confederation strength by 200%. Their technological advancement rate has increased by 800% through shared research. They represent a fundamental shift in galactic power. You created us, said simply. Every species that joins the Protectorate does so because they remember asking you for help and being told to wait for diplomatic solutions. Every ship in our fleet exists because you taught us we could only depend on ourselves. Commander Val floated in his containment suit, his gaseous form barely visible. What do you want from us, human? Surrender, submission to your new order. Shook her head. We want nothing from you. We never did. We wanted you to do the right thing, but you chose not to, so we did it ourselves. Your actions have consequences, Elder Zinmore said, his crystal body flashing with weak colors. Other species now question Confederation authority. Pirates grow bolder knowing our unity is broken. There are reports of resource wars in the Outer Rim. Yes, agreed. Change is difficult, but you know what's worse than instability? Watching innocent beings die while you debate protocol. She activated another display, showing real-time footage from human patrol ships. In system after system, human forces worked alongside local species to maintain peace, not through threats or intimidation, but through the simple promise that help would come when it was needed. The Protectorate operates on one simple principle, explained. When someone calls for help, we answer. No debates, no committees, no diplomatic delays, we act. Representative from the Reptilian Alliance hissed softly. And if you make mistakes, if you intervene in situations you do not understand, if your actions cause more harm than good, then we learn from our mistakes and do better next time, replied. But we don't use the possibility of making mistakes as an excuse to never try. A new voice spoke from the chamber's entrance. Everyone turned to see Admiral Cross entering, with a small group of beings that many representatives had never seen before. These are the delegation, Cross announced. Survivors of the attempted genocide at 442, they have asked to address the Confederation. The lead was an elderly female with the elongated limbs and large eyes characteristic of her species. She moved slowly to the speaking platform, her movements graceful despite her obvious age. I am Elder, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. 6 months ago, my people faced extinction. Our cities burned. Our children died. Our future was ending. She looked directly at Elder Zinmore. We sent desperate messages to the Galactic Confederation. We begged for help. Your response was to express deep concern and promise diplomatic pressure. The Elder activated a small recording device. The chamber filled with the sounds of children crying, of sirens wailing, of explosions tearing apart a civilization. This was our world while you expressed concern. This was our reality while you promised diplomatic solutions. This was our genocide while you debated protocol. The recording stopped, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Then the humans came, continued. They did not ask for permission. They did not wait for authorization. They saw evil being done and they stopped it. 2.3 billion of my people are alive today because humans chose action over politics. She turned to address the entire chamber. The Confederation formally joins the Terran Protectorate. We do so not because humans are perfect, but because they are willing to fight for justice even when it costs them dearly. Elder Zinmore's crystal body flickered weakly. The humans violated the Prime Directive. They destabilized galactic order. They acted without authority. They saved my people, replied simply. Everything else is just politics. The chamber erupted in voices. Some species called for recognition of the Protectorate. Others demanded sanctions against Earth. The unity of the Confederation was fracturing in real time. Watched the chaos for a moment, then activated the chamber's attention signal. The Terran Protectorate does not seek recognition from the Galactic Confederation. We do not need your approval to protect innocent life. We do not require your permission to do what is right. She looked directly at Zinmore. But we offer you a choice. You can continue to hide behind your Prime Directive while species die, or you can join us in building something better. Prime Keeper Atlas spoke for the first time in hours. Define better, Ambassador. A galaxy where genocide is impossible because someone will always stand against it. A galaxy where primitive species don't face extinction alone. A galaxy where having advanced technology means having the responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Paused and looked around the chamber one final time. A galaxy where being powerful means being just. The debate that followed lasted 3 days. In the end, the vote was closer than anyone had expected. The Galactic Confederation formally recognized the Terran Protectorate as an independent political entity. Trade agreements were established. Territorial boundaries were negotiated. But most importantly, a new protocol was added to the Confederation Charter. It became known as the Doctrine. When genocide threatened any species, any member of the Confederation could act immediately to prevent it, regardless of other political considerations. Elder Zinmore personally authored the amendment. His crystal body had regained its brightness when he spoke the final words. The humans have shown us something we had forgotten, he announced to the assembled representatives. Sometimes the right action is not the lawful action. Sometimes preservation of life supersedes preservation of order. As Ambassador prepared to leave the Confederation chambers for the last time, Admiral Cross handed her a communication pad showing messages from across the galaxy. Distress call from the Deneb system. Confederation forces are responding. Pirates attacking trade routes in the Vega sector. Joint Confederation Protectorate patrol dispatched. New species discovered in the Outer Rim, requesting protection. Ambassador teams en route. Smiled as she read the reports. For the first time in months, she saw cooperation instead of conflict. Not perfect cooperation, but a beginning. Admiral, she said to Cross, what do you think history will say about what we did here? Cross looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's great windows. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled alongside alien vessels, protecting species that had never heard of Earth but no longer had to face extinction alone. I think history will say we grew up, Cross replied. The galaxy spent 3,000 years teaching us that the strong make the rules and the weak follow them. We taught them something different. Which was that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, and that sometimes the youngest voice in the room is the only one willing to speak the truth. As they walked toward their shuttle, activated her personal recorder one final time. Personal log, Ambassador. The Galactic Confederation has learned that peace and justice are not the same thing. They have learned that stability built on the suffering of others is not worth preserving. They have learned that sometimes a juvenile species can teach ancient wisdom to elder races. She paused at the shuttle door and looked back at the Confederation building. But most importantly, they have learned that when someone calls for help, the right response is not to debate whether you should answer. The right response is to ask how quickly you can get there. The shuttle departed Prime and jumped to hyperspace, carrying the human delegation back to Earth. Behind them, the galaxy continued its work, no longer perfect, but no longer willing to watch genocide happen in the name of political stability. In the years that followed, when crises arose and the Confederation debated diplomatic solutions, a new phrase entered galactic politics. Should we handle this ourselves, or do we need to call the humans? It was always asked with respect.